Nice to meet you all. I'm Nalin, founder CEO of Storylane. So I think Pranav talked about 95%, 5%. I'll talk a little bit about 5%, actually. There's a problem in 5% too. There's a problem everywhere, right? So just on that, what he said, I think just on the incrementality, so we reduced our ad spend. I'll just add to that a little bit, right? So we've been spending on Google Ads last year like 40,000, 50,000 per month, okay? So this month in January, I said, let's slash off by 10%. So we did 10%, no change. February, I did 20%, no change. March, I've slashed it by 50%. I'm waiting to see the results. It's very simple, and all I had to do was shut off some campaigns, actually. Because a lot of times we look at the last attribution, and I've been looking at it also, right? Like looking at the last click ID, where is the GCL ID I can see in my HubSpot, understanding what the account value this was impacting, figuring it out. Actually it didn't matter, in all honesty. Because Storylane, okay, how many of you know about Storylane? Very little. How many of you know about demo automation? There's a lot of 95% I have to do more. Okay, good. So anyways, the point is there's a lot of network effect of our product that has helped, and there is brand presence on LinkedIn that has helped, and we've been getting leads that way. So the Google spend was just extra. So anyways, so hopefully we're able to save 20, 25,000 per month budget. We're going to use that in the 95% distribution through events and sponsorships and things. So anyways, just wanted to add to that. That was great. So a little bit about Storylane. So we've been around for 3.5 years. We are a remote team, 30 people team, actually. So we are into demo automation. So this is a very relatively new category that's been created. So 2020s is when this category was created. And then, there's a bunch of companies that do with demo automation. We're one of them. And then we sell into GTM teams, marketing and sales teams, who needs to show what your product does to buyers. That's basically where Storylane comes in. Hey, we talked about the 95% people educated about what you're doing and through socials, events. Today, a lot of you know about Storylane, good, right? So now when you make a decision to buy something, nobody is excited to get up and talk to sales guy, right, immediately. You need to know what your product does. So I know you purchased Vanta because you were very sold on. Compliance is a little easy. When I wanted to buy compliance, I know Vanta exists, SecureFrame exists, Sprinto exists, there are three. So I looked at three of them, and I wanted to know specifically for my infrastructure who will solve that. I talked to all three, picked Vanta. Also, we are a YC company, I picked Vanta. So there's a little bit more to it too. So the point being is, even when you're ready, there is companies doing what you're doing everywhere. There's competition. I think Arjun just talked about, in this building, there's 5 people doing same thing can be there. So with AI, building companies has become so simple right now. So everybody is building software. There's a lot more SaaS that's going to continue to grow. So with that, you want to be once you get the 5% who are the hand raisers who said, I want to buy your software, you really want to hone in on those people, show your product throughout the cycle, because these are the people ready to buy. Anyways, with that, I want to talk a little bit about future of buying as well. So we started with a thesis of what we want to do. You can go ahead. We started with a thesis of what we wanted to build out. This is 2021. So AI has been going at an unprecedented rate. So we are definitely looking at the future of what the buying could look like. And this is definitely without a salesperson, is how I see it in qualifying. So in the next 20 minutes, I'll cover a little bit about B2B buying today. I'll skip, a lot of you are very familiar with, I think, what the previous talk from Pranav. How demos have helped us. We have 3,000 plus customers who use Storylane demos in different functions in the GTM today. It's been helping them. What I see as a future, what the agentic buying experience will look like as well, and what we're launching next month. Keep going. Oh, not a great slide. That was a beautiful slide, but you get the point. 95% are not in the market. 5% are buying. This is what I was talking about. So we do all the work for getting the 95%, and now 5% is what I'm going to focus. So think about 5% of the people who are ready to buy, and then there are a lot of challenges that B2B buying have today, even in this 5% of people. There are many, but I'll pick my top 3 at this point, right? Firstly, too many vendors to pick. I talked about compliance software like SOC 2, right? There's too many vendors. That's a little easier. If you want to buy a CDP platform, it's a little complex. It needs to integrate with my systems back of the things in my infrastructure as well. So you need to talk to sales. You need to understand exactly what the features do. So the more the complex software gets, it becomes super hard for you to evaluate them as well. Too much time. For example, if you want to buy something, you build a buying committee of 4 or 5 people involved. So immediately they need to get on a call, evaluate vendors, go through the POC, understand, go through the discovery, dance with the sales team. So there's a lot of hurdles through that. So a lot of time commitment. I'll give you one personal story example. So before Storylane, I was part of one of the buying committees. We were buying a sales, like a CSM software. It's cost around $12,000 a month. We had a buying committee of 4 to 5 people. And from 8 to 9 different vendors, there is 10 CSM vendors today. You will see like we picked the top 3. From 95%, we got them to the 5%. There were 3 people. We want to evaluate them. So we spent a lot of time, over 6 to 7 weeks, to pick a vendor, going through demo calls, discovery calls, understanding the platform, evaluating it. If you look at the opportunity cost over here, there are 4 to 5 people involved over a 7-week time. Even if they spend 1 hour at $250 an hour, if you put it, they've already spent 10K, the purchase of the software today. This is not even the software is in I haven't bought it yet. There's no procurement involved yet. There's no compliance involved in here. There's no IT. There's no legal. None of them is involved. So the opportunity cost is huge in trying to buy a software in the 6 to 8 weeks somebody spends today. So there's a lot of time, and there's a cost to it. Reviews, if you start looking at it, I mean, like, have you seen a G2 review with less than 4 star? No, I don't think so. There's no G2 review with less than 4 star, right? It's a table stakes. Everybody needs to have G2 review. Everybody needs to be a leader. Like, everybody is a leader. I have a badge. Every website has a badge. Like it just matters. It's just an impression. I need a badge. I need the count. That's all, right? How many times you read the review? There's nobody reads the reviews now. So these are becoming less and less useful. Case studies are with your best friends, right? So quickly, like you were part of my event. I sponsored you. Build a case study. So the point being is the product becomes important. At the end of the day, you're buying a product, and you need to see the product. And you need to evaluate the product. And there is a lot of friction in that. So these are a lot of challenges we have today. So our vision was to, how do we reduce this friction? There are many tools that do that, but at the end of the day, you're buying a product, which is how the product works itself. So today, let's say out of the 5%, I raise my hand, I want to buy a software. As a very simple way it works is, you did a great demand gen, 95%, you came over here, a visitor, comes to our website, requests a demo, gets converted into a lead. Let's say it's a mid-market enterprise sales, you have getting into an SDR queue, it gets scheduled. Maybe a week later, you might get on a call with the SDR. There's a lot of delay, and he will ask you a standard set of questions, a lot of qualification. Are you a good buyer? I raise my hand, but are you still a good buyer, right? They'll qualify you if you fit into ICP. Checklist of questions, lead qualifications, then finally, if you do well, and if you are a qualified buyer, you will end up talking to an AE or a pre-sales person, depending on the type of software you're buying, and then you go into a buying decision. So the whole process will take a lot of time at this point. Now, if you keep going. So what you have seen is, like, out of the 5% of people, this whole process that we shot, the whole process that Arjun showed in the previous slide that we had, the process is pretty complex. I just came to, yeah. So even if there is a trend from Gartner, right? Out of these people, 75% of buyers typically don't want options, which is basically like their options for them are like, I don't want to talk to a salesperson, and I just want to have a repless kind of an experience. And they always read your content. These buyers are well educated. After being well educated, you're going through that whole process today. Because today, everybody is pretty prevalent on LinkedIn, social events, and everything, all the buying brands. So as a buyer, you have to go through this crucious pain, basically, to go through the process. Now, in the whole buying cycle, if you look at it, there's only 15 to 20% of the time you are engaged with a salesperson itself. Keep going. Now, this has been the trend. Now, how demos have helped in the last 3 years, I'll get into. So before jumping into a little bit about demos itself, like some of you have known about demos, some have raised a hand about Storylane, if you go through it. So demos are like different ways people have built it. So what Storylane supports is like guided interactive demos, which can highlight about what your product does. People put this on websites, campaigns, in your outreach, in your ads. You basically tell a buyer about what your product does. It's about storytelling. Storytelling about what your value of your product is. So there are a few options in which the buying has been, demos have been useful for a lot of buyers. We have already made these demos more better, experiential, with voice, videos, and easy way of content creation itself. Keep going. So the demos have been used throughout the buying journey. So not just from marketing, I'll focus a lot more on marketing today, but marketing, pre-sales, customer success. If you look at it like from a demand gen, like top of the funnel, when the 95% people are ready, you're educating them with your product. When they're ready, you're showing the product in your websites, the AEs and SDRs are using it. And sales team uses it once they're ready for a POC and even onboarding adoption. What we have seen is throughout the cycle that demos have been used, and there's been a good adoption with that. And with demos, what companies have started doing is, this is a kind of a quick chart to explain this. Now buyers are more product aware. In the previous one that I showed you, buyers don't see the product until they finally talk to the AE and get access to it. Now, as the buyer starts coming in and interacting with you, they start understanding what your product does. Be it outbound, AI SDRs, people use a lot of demos because they don't want to talk to someone, but rather they'll see a product. When they come to your website, they see a demo of your product. They get more qualified. They understand what your product does, but you will start seeing that they still go through the motion of a sales guy, SDR, still qualifying them. Even though you have seen the product, I know you like the product, but I still want to qualify you. Make sure like you are my real buyer. They go through that process before going on to AE and pre-sales. And then once they're well qualified, they get into the buying decision where the demos are also used. CFO didn't join the call, or a VP of marketing I'm selling into, he didn't join the call, where a product marketer was evaluating. How do I show value to a VP of marketing who couldn't join the call? Demos are used in the buying decisions as well. So it's being used throughout in the buying cycle, but there is a huge friction still with this whole, once your product qualified, there is still a sales qualified talking to a sales guy. What we see, you can skip over. What we see in the future is basically, next slide, is we don't need any salesperson to be involved. We look at it calling as agentic qualified lead, and this is coming soon. We are launching it next month. We will have an agent who can replace every SDR, inbound SDR. We're not replacing the outbound SDR. That's different. Once I'm ready, I want to buy, so we're replacing every inbound SDR, or it could be an AE. So AEs can upskill themselves. So these are trained on your call recordings of your best sales rep, and it can show you the demos of what you are interested in. So that way, you're able to qualify your buyer, show them the demos, and you can completely skip through the whole SDR pipe cycle, the whole buying pipeline, the whole friction there in terms of getting on the call with 3 different vendors, evaluating your product, can be completely wiped off and skipped itself over here. So this is how we see it. Interactive demos turning into more and more into like agentic platform, where it's not just one or few demos. It's about like, I can ask a question. Does it integrate with HubSpot? Do you integrate with Salesforce? Do you have an SSO? So that not just the agent can answer your question, but also show how it works based on your persona, based on your use case. Maybe you are from healthcare. Maybe you are from financial tech. So that different demos could be curated dynamically and shown to you. That's basically where the future looks like for us. And so that the buyers are well aware of what your product is before they start talking to a product specialist or a pre-sales or AE, right, who's well aware of the product itself. So think of it like your best sales rep that scales 24/7, answering questions and talking to them, talking to you anytime you're ready on your website or in your campaigns and showing the product. So in 2025, we don't see inbound SDRs doing the same thing, showing the same demos, talking and asking the same questions itself. So that's basically what Lily will do once it's launched in April. Last slide. So the new form, what it will look like is you do the demand, get the 5% of the people, have a Lily agent, show the demos, talk to them completely. It's conversational video, so it's not just giving you an overview of that, but it becomes conversational. You can chat with it, talk to it, and you have a more agentic qualified. I don't think anymore you'll have like sales qualified leads at some point. Sales qualified will be gone, so the SDRs will not be qualifying. It will be moving into the fold of agentic qualified. Agents will qualify you, and then a product specialist who's skilled up to answer those questions will be the one who will take it up. In a lot of cases, they'll just purchase the software directly. I don't think we are there yet, but I don't think it's too far away as well. So where they'll buy the software. So they'll get a more sales rep-less experience. Cool. That's about it. Take some questions as well. Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So I think, so basically today the sales qualified metric goes by like, hey, are you in my ICP matches? So they have a bunch of checklist of questionnaires, which a salesperson will do it. So agents will be trained understanding those kind of questions instead of the real human asking SDR. Agents will be asking in a more conversational way, showing your product. So the metric will be more like what are the different demos, different things that you engaged with, plus the type of questions you ask. So we identify a score, like a high, medium, low. Think of it in 3 ways, so that we say like what the qualification looks like, so they can pick it from there.
But then you still need a salesperson to follow up later.
Yes. So I think it's again, some products are probably simpler. You can directly go. So what we see is like, I have a PLG product, and I don't want a salesperson for low value deals to talk to them at all. So great, you're qualified, go ahead, subscribe, sign up, whatever your goal and call to action looks like. You can take that action, yeah. Yeah.
They might be the agent, but if the product suddenly costs $10,000 or $100,000,
Yeah, and I think the goal is like, I think, great question. So one of the public companies that we are in conversation with right now, so they will deploy it in the mid-market. They won't deploy it in enterprise, for example. So the product value, depending on the value they want to have. I don't think every company is like quickly ready to switch over like an enterprise deal with this. But I think where it comes most important is you need to still start like validating what the buyer wants early in the cycle. So in this case, the agents will not be making a decision to purchase, but rather like answering those questions about your product and driving the conversation back to a product specialist or pre-sales in that case. So if it is like, again, going back to a $100 product, you don't want to be involving a pre-sales person or some product specialist there. So the actions could be straight to sign up. So the idea is like you can build as many agents, use the ones depending on the segment of the market as well. That's basically how we're doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I also don't read.
Sorry?
I also don't read like.
Yeah.
So, when you see people going up.
I think people go to these reviews to see the count, I think, and then the number there. But where I do see is like a lot of communities, Slack communities and communities, word of mouth, referrals. That definitely works a lot more for sure. Like we did a quick check, like when people sign up, like, hey, how did you hear about Storylane? I mean, like you see a lot of times people say LinkedIn, word of mouth, somebody referred me. So what I've gathered from the last 2 months of data, I can tell you is like many from word of mouth, many from like I've seen this somewhere. So that's definitely what I've seen in the last 2 months. So I believe that's probably where it's a lot more, depending on the product it goes. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks so much.